I have been back in N-scale model trains since about 2017, and I have accrued quite a lot of rolling stock over these past 6 years. I don't even know what all I have. It has come to the point where I have multiple brands running together and sometimes not running together. I have many cars that just don't work well together, and for a while I was just like, okay, just don't hook those up together. But that wasn't working for me. So I decided to implement some basic standards that every piece of rolling stock would go through when entering my collection so that I minimize issues. Hey everybody, my name's Jimmy. Welcome to Coffee and Trains. Today I am drinking some Green Mountain Coffee Roasters coffee. If you want to tell me what kind of coffee you are drinking and have it featured just like these guys right here, you can leave that in the comments below. Cheers, guys. These are the things that every new piece of rolling stock goes through when entering my collection. The only exception of this is passenger cars, and that's just because I typically buy them as sets, and they typically won't be mixed and matched like freight cars. The first thing that I do is check the car on my minimum radius with my SD40-2 from Kato. If there is one locomotive in my collection that is going to derail a car on this curve, this is going to be the one. This test signals if I need to change out couplers on the piece of rolling stock. N-scale has a lot more truck-mounted couplers than body-mounted couplers. These couplers are simpler to install on the small pieces of rolling stock, but they can lead into issues going into turns. So, if necessary, I swap them out for body-mounted couplers. This will usually solve the problem unless I have some extremely tight curves. Next, I need to adapt all of the cars for current sensing. Current sensing is the most non-invasive way to detect whether or not a section of track is occupied. This is very easy to do with locomotives, but rolling stock needs some modification. I do this by first swapping one of the axles out for a metal wheel set if it's plastic. When I do this, I usually use intermountain wheels. The best axle swap is the inside axle away from the coupler on the truck. I then superglue a 10K surface mount resistor to the axle and use some conductive paint to make the connections. I have done an entire video on this and I'm going to link it below because I didn't go through everything right there. The last thing I'll do is make sure that my cars weigh enough. A car that does not weigh enough is going to have derailment issues. And some manufacturers, especially some of the older budget ones, can be all over the place. NMRA standards are a great place to start with this. They have a great guide for weight on their website. I'll link that in the description below. For the actual weights, I'll use something like wheel weights if I need to add a lot, or something like tungsten putty if it's just a small custom amount. There are a few optional things that I will do with rolling stock, but not all of it. The most obvious of these things is weathering. Weathering is definitely something to do when you are looking for realism. I've done a simple weathering video and I'll link this at the end. You can really go far with this by doing things like graffiti on more modern cars. Weathering is a big subsection of this hobby, to the point where people even have side businesses just weathering trains for other model railroaders. As your collection grows, having standards for your rolling stock is going to remove some headaches. These standards can be as simple or complex as you like. Do you have things that you do to your rolling stock when you receive it? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.